Greetings, folks. Steve here, and got Ursula in the home garage once again, and we are supposed to be going to do some testing at the track tomorrow. Me and Matt are trying to get Ursula dialed for import face-off. It is 3 weeks away, and I got some stuff I want to do to the Z before then too. This year, Matt is going to be piloting Ursula, and I'll be an old Goldie. So Ursula's pretty good. I think she makes plenty of power to run in the 11.5 in next class. We want to go a little faster this year than we were capable of last fall because we were trying to play catch up. And really with the nitrous being kind of a wild card and a variable that we can't always predict or control very well, that affects our launch a lot. So we want the car to have enough power to catch up and still run an 11.5, even with a less than perfect launch. So with that in mind, we need to get this thing to the track, make sure it's not going to overboost because I have been having some intermittent overboosting on the streets, even with the wastegate just being on spring. So that's a little alarming, but when I was at the track with the same wastegate, same everything set up, I wasn't having that problem when I was running my 7.0s and stuff. So that's something we need to test out, just see if there's anything else that needs attention there. In the interest in not overboosting this thing, I made a little change. Now, this is going to look kind of strange because we don't normally run these things, but we do have an air filter on the turbo. So my hopes are that, really all the overboosting drama started when we put all the big intercooler pipes on it with the big intercooler. So my thoughts are, we're kind of right there on the threshold of control. The boost is creeping, but whenever it does overboost or boost cut, it only does it at the very top of the gear, like at 7,000 RPMs. So my theory is, throw an air filter on it and just try to slow down some of that incoming air a little bit, just create a little tiny bit of restriction, and hopefully that'll give us just the buffer we need to not be over boosting the car. We'll probably end up at XRP. We need to get the car dialed for something around a 7.3, maybe even like a 7.2. But we'll just kind of have to see how that goes. Matt's a little heavier than me, but I was out running 7.0s in this thing on like 22 pounds. But we don't have any additional fuel system, so I really can't run any more power than we were at that time. So we just want to kind of go out and do some experimenting. Another thing that we're going to be toying with most likely is our converter has loosened up so much since we initially installed it that the dump valve in the transmission is really starting to be kind of pointless in combination with the nitrous. So here's the deal. Once the transmission is hot, we really don't need the nitrous to stage. The converter gets loose enough to where just the dump valve without nitrous, we can get up to a two-step and sit on two-step and launch. But that is not a reliable plan because if we get stuck sitting in the lanes, if someone has a spill or crashes, then we may lose enough temperature in the transmission to where that just goes away. It'll go back to like a 3,000 RPM stall speed. So we cannot bank on the transmission being warm enough to not count on the nitrous. What I would rather do is depend on the nitrous. But what we were seeing last time I was at the track is with the nitrous and the dump valve, we were blowing through the converter pretty bad. It would just rev up. It wouldn't stall. It wouldn't get up on the stall. So what I'll probably end up doing or experimenting with tomorrow is going to be not using the dump valve at all and just using nitrous, hopefully without draining that converter charge pressure. Hopefully the converter will be tight enough to hold things still when the nitrous comes on. Unfortunately, I cannot use two-step and nitrous at the same time with the micro squirt, so we kind of have to deal with that too. We really just need the converter to hold everything locked up until we come off the button and launch. So what that will do for us is actually free up an output if we're not using the dump valve. And what I would like to do is a little bit more experimenting with the variable valve timing solenoid and system on this engine. We have not been using it at all. It's been just unused. It's just laying in its like dormant position. So I got referred to this web page, these guys that do a lot of 2J stuff by someone I know on Instagram, and I read up a whole bunch on what RPM band the VVTi actually makes the most difference. And there's actually like dyno graphs that show it, and it looks like basically between 4,000 and 5,000 RPMs is when you really see the power on the dyno graph that's substantially different than the same dyno pool without the VVT. So I've experimented with it at low RPMs. I've experimented with it on the top end at high RPMs. And in both those instances, it robbed power of the engine. So what I haven't tried really is just a small window in between like low RPM and high RPM. So I'd really like to set it up with to come on between like 4,000 and 5,000 RPMs and just see if it helps spool the turbo up a little quicker and really helps things there. If we get rid of the dump valve and the nitrous is working like it should, and we get the VVT working and it's actually helping spool the turbo up sooner, then we may be able to just get away from the nitrous altogether, which would be great because dealing with bottle pressure and filling the bottle and all that's a huge pain in the ass. So what I'm doing right now is I'm installing blade terminals on the circuit for ALED. That is the on-off output for the micro squirt. And I'm going to install that on ALED, and then I'm going to install it on the wire that comes from the VVT solenoid, and I'm going to install it on the wire that goes to the dump valve relay. So that way, if I decide we're not going to use the dump, then I'll just unplug them. I can just plug them, you know, swap them around. And if I decide like that sucks, then I can swap it back. You know, it's just, they're just blade terminals, so I won't have to cut and crimp and all that. So I'm knocking that out right now, and tomorrow we're gonna meet up with Matt and head out to the track. So we'll see you guys at the racetrack. Greetings, folks. We are out here at XRP. Matt is currently checking the tire pressures on Ursula. We're getting her ready to go. There's not that many people here. We're gonna get to make as many passes as we need to get this puppy dialed. Right now we still have the dump valve hooked up. So we're gonna kind of try to see what Matt's comfortable with as far as getting to the line and staging and how it's gonna act. We're getting our nitrous bottle filled. Nitrous is pretty cheap here and they fill them pretty quick. So it had about 5 pounds in it. We went ahead and just gonna have them top it up so we don't gotta worry about bottle pressure as much. But that's where we're at right now. I got my main man Dub came along with us, and so I'm not gonna be driving today. I get to hang out with him and just gonna see how Matt and the Lexus behave. So our trans brake isn't really holding. It kind of will and then it kind of won't. So staging is gonna be pretty difficult with that in mind. So I'm gonna make a run and just kind of see how the car feels. We do have the bottle on. Just kind of see how it goes. Matt wants me to just kind of feel it out. If the trans brake's not gonna hold, it's not the end of the world. We can foot brake it. We can use nitrous, moving out of the hole to get up to speed until the turbo lights off. It's not that big of a deal, really. The car took off and just immediately fell on its face. What? Over and over again. Looked at the log and it's going like lean rich. It's really acting like a fuel slosh problem. So I just pulled the fuel pump out of the tank to see I mean, it shows half a tank on the gauge. And there's plenty of gas in it. Granted, I did do some tight right-handed circles a moment ago. It's certainly possible that maybe a lot of our fuel was on the wrong side of the tank. Even still, there's like that bowl or that container around the pump that should keep it from sloshing like that. I don't know. So someone just got coolant all over the track, so we got a little bit of time to kill. I think what we're gonna do is just load up in it and just go for a little drive. And really the only changes I've made is that air filter, and I just don't see the air filter causing it to go super lean the way that it did. So we're gonna take it for a little cruise and see if it acts up on the street.
So just made a little pull on the street just to see, you know, if it was gonna fall on its face again. Everything felt fine on the service road. So we're just gonna send her. We're just gonna see what happens. We were thinking maybe the left side of our fuel tank had emptied out a little bit, maybe during towing or something like that. But pulled a couple quick turns, made sure it's nice and full. Should be good to go. We'll see.
Ready? Here we go. So I'm back home now. The Z is at the house. The Lexus is out in the driveway. I got both cars here because I don't know which one really needs what. But that's kind of where we're at. The Lexus is leaning out big time on the track. Not really sure why. It's not really acting like it's just out of fuel. It's not really acting like it's a pump problem or an injector problem. We're talking pretty low boost, pretty low power levels. Changes that I've made on the car since last time at the track are plentiful. I mean, it's got an air filter on it now, which is the most obvious change. It's on a different fuel pump. I put in that big 535 liter per hour fuel pump. The wiring that goes to the fuel injectors and the relay that controls the fuel pump's all different. Like, there's a ton of stuff that's changed on the car. So I'm gonna have to spend some time dissecting the data logs and checking fuel pressure and trying to find a way to duplicate the issue, because it didn't happen when we were just driving on the street getting into power. It only happened on the drag strip. So got our work cut out for us. 3 weeks till IFO. Stay tuned, watch us grind it out. I gotta get this car ready, and if I can get the Lexus running half decent, I'd really like to freshen up the Z's transmission, but we'll see where we end up. Okay, so it's the next day now. I got a couple theories of what I think's going on, but one of the things I discovered, and I feel like such an idiot for this, but evidently back when we were having the wastegate problems, I lowered the boost cut down to 20 PSI. So I've kind of determined that that's probably what's going on, is we're just hitting boost cut. And I'm almost certain, but it's not that clear in the data log. Like, there's not really a parameter in Tuner Studios that says like boost cut right here. You know, it's like all you see is really like the RPMs drop down, and you might see like the injector duty change. I'm not really sure how to see boost cut on a data log, but I'm pretty sure that's all that was going on with it. There's another thing on the graph that I'll show you whenever I got the laptop out, but right now I'm just going to make a couple little quick pulls, after I get a little heat in it, and see if it's going to boost cut. Let's see what she's going to do. I got the air filter on. Boost cut's at 25. The boost regulator should be set to probably about 21 or 22 PSI. We're going to find out. We boost cutted. We are still boost cutting. So I might need to back off the boost regulator a little bit. I might try that. I don't know if that's going to fix the problem, because honestly it was running higher boost than it should have been, even on wastegate spring. It's got a 15-pound spring in it, and it was boost cutting at 20. So I just think we have a little bit of a creep problem, and honestly it might all come down to the extra spring that I put in this gate. This was a 10-pound gate. Actually, no, that's wrong. You know what? There was a 15-pound spring that was in it, and then I added a 5-pound spring. I think that might be the problem. I think I need to take that extra spring out of the, I can't remember what the hell springs are in it. We'll try to back off the boost just a little bit. All right, same thing, minus 6 clicks, or 1.5 pounds on the boost controller. Still boost cutting. All right, so back in the garage now with the car, and I've decided with very little doubt that the problem causing the boost cut is the spring that I added to the wastegate. So gonna go ahead and pull the wastegate apart. We already got the car up on jack stands. See, we got Goldie here too. Both cars at the house, trying to get everything dialed for IFO. 2 weeks now. And we are going to pull that second wastegate spring out and see if that returns operations back to normal where they need to be. Okay, so I got the cover off the wastegate and got the springs out of the way, but I saw something on here that I think might be part of the problem. If you look at the diaphragm right here, so this is the diaphragm that sticks to the actual body when this moves up, when it goes to open up, and the diaphragm should stay put. And it's kind of hard to demonstrate here, but the diaphragm should totally stay stuck while this goes up whenever the cap's bolted on. So what I noticed was if I turn this around, look at this look at the seal on this. See right here? It's like pinched. So it's pretty clear when I installed that cap that it pinched that second row, and that might have been limiting the wastegate's travel. That might have been like totally making it like stick so it didn't open all the way. I think that's probably what happened. I know the camera angle's not great, but it was totally pinched down on the side like that, and that would have made this open a little bit less. So maybe that's the problem, I don't know. We were running a whole bunch of power with just the one spring, so I'm gonna go ahead and just switch it back to a single spring, and we'll try that. I'm gonna spray some lube on the inside of this diaphragm, just to make sure it doesn't, if it does start to get pinched again, it'll at least have a chance to squirt out of there. And so that's gonna be what we try now. So after removing the second wastegate spring, the car began making controllable boost levels. I saw that it was leaning out pretty bad at these lower boost levels where obviously I just haven't touched up the map in that boost range. So I had to add a little bit of fuel, tweak the tune a little bit, but I do think that we addressed the boost cut issue. I need to start ramping up the boost now and get things where they need to be, and that's going to take place at the track. Tomorrow, me and Matt are heading back to XRP to try again and try to get this car dialed in to a 7.3 in anticipation for IFO coming up in 2 weeks. Also, I dropped a video last week of going through the Lexus's wiring in the engine bay. Be sure to go back and check that out too if you're interested in seeing how I rewired the entire engine bay in the IS300. But that's doing it for this week. So like and subscribe. We'll see you in a week.